Well, good evening and welcome to another episode of Time Out Podcast. It is the 26th of October 2021. We're just out of a sporting weekend. We're looking forward to a busy week in sport locally and internationally. Time, time Out is your favorite. time Out. Time Out is Time Out is your favorite podcast focusing on major Time Out is your favorite podcast focusing on major sports highlights in Kenya and across the globe, behind the scenes happenings both on and off the pitch, numbers, human interest stories in sport, and a look at the future talent in sport. Why time out? Time out means taking a break to re strategize, to re energize, and rebuild. We're looking into sport a little deeper as we seek to help sport brands and personalities rebuild, reorganize, and give a better outlook. We are sports lovers, we've played sports, we've worked in sport in different capacities. We have a different view of the world of sport. My name is Michael Kwambo, and I'm joined as always by Richard Wanjohi. Richie, it's great to meet after a week of the show. There's a bit of
Yeah,
consistency there. Maybe you can tell us what's been going on in the world of sport.
I think the world of sport is buzzing again, and I think both locally and internationally, we've had action in the pitches, in the football pitch. We have some stuff coming up in the rugby. We've had athletics, marathons across Europe as usual. Kenyan talent just breaking it out there. We've also had an interesting rally from Rwanda where Carl the Flash Tundo did some wonders. But all that we shall capture as we go along.
Indeed. And of course, you just mentioned the highlights. Let's start with football. Mixed results for the Kenyan teams in the CAF Confederations Cup and the Champions League. Let's start with Tusker. They were trailing 1-0 from the first leg in Nairobi. They went to Alexandria in Egypt. They lost by 4 goals to 0. Was that an expected result?
I think we had quoted this here and saying that they should have started with the away game. Hopefully, then they would have soaked in less goals. But I think one playing the second leg in the foreign country, secondly with the team having suffered injury, issues. So it was a second string team and almost plagued. I think they even had 18 players allowed to be on the pitch or including the reserves. So it was bound to happen. No surprises there. Matano, I think he tried his best given the resources that he had.
Did tried his best given the resources that he had, but one resource really let them down. It's a man I respect, a man whom I hold in high esteem, but he put on a comedy show in Alexandria, Patrick Matasi. If you looked at the highlights of the goals that Tusker conceded, comical errors from a man who in 2019 saved Sadio Mane's penalty in AFCON in Egypt. I mean, looking at sixes and sevens, this is not the Patrick Matasi we know.
I think again, the Tusker team sort of felt deflated after losing locally from here in Nairobi, and then going up there. I think Ida Matasia was not just with it, and once he's soaking the first goal, second goal, everything just it goes down south. I think we saw with what happened on Sunday with the big derby in the English football. I won't mention any teams here. Yeah.
Indeed. Now, to the other result, Gor Mahia, they were up to play against Al Ahly Meroe. Meroe didn't show up. Gor through to the last round of qualifying in the Confederations Cup. If they win that two-legged fixture against the team from Congo, AS
Yes.
Otoho, AS Otoyo, as a friend of mine was making fun of them, they will qualify for the group stages of the Confederation Cup for the second time. Remember, they did it under coach Hussein Oktay, and they got to the quarterfinals where they were bundled out by the Algerian club. I forget the name. What do you think it looks like for Gor heading into this clash against the Congolese side?
I think it's not all. I think they have a safe advantage. I think the Sudanese for me were a tougher team to tackle. I'm not saying they should underestimate the Congolese AS Otoho. What they can do is just secure a win away, by 2 goals at least to nil, or maybe 3-1 like they did with um, Al Ahly, then come back home and maybe just score a single goal, or maybe even draw. That way they'll secure the qualification into the group stages. I think they still have the momentum going into this game. They still have fair preparations. We have not had any crises or any issues with the management, as is usually the case with Gor Mahia. But let's hope they keep it together as they prepare for this game.
Indeed, Harambee Stars. Harambee Stars dropping 2 more places down the FIFA rankings from 102 to 104. Is it that the stars have aligned? Because they say
You're being poetic now, huh?
no pun intended.
No, I think you cannot flog a horse and expect the same results. We have said this time and again, FKF is an office, or it's an administration that is, I think, way past its time in office. I think it's about time they hand over to a different team, because we have seen what has happened. Coaches coming in and out, getting coaches who have questionable qualifications. We saw the fiasco that what happened, locally, and also when they went to the away game. I think when you have players that we have, like the Olungas of this world, the Kapaito, we should not be soaking in that many goals, and at least we should be calling our own. And ranking, we should not be in our triple digits. We should be at least in the 80s. If worst comes to the worst.
Oh boy, yeah. For me, there's nothing much to add, because, like you said, we've been on a steady spiral downwards, and probably the chicken are coming home to roost. I mean, Kenyan football is full of talent. Just to weigh my voice on that whole debate from about 3 weeks ago. But I mean, we're just sliding further and further into oblivion. It is tragic. It is upsetting. Maybe we can talk about the NOC elections, which are coming up on the 16th of November. What is your take on the current office in terms of their performance? Do you think they've done well? Do you think they've missed their targets?
I think overall they came into office under very heavy, sort of like a backlog of activities they needed to do. We had a previous office that handled the Rio Olympics in 2016, which was a very bad outing, even though we won quite a number of gold medals. So for them to try and repair the damage that had been done, I think it took a bit of time, but I think we had and I think they had preparations to go to Tokyo last year until the pandemic happened. Unfortunately, I think it took off the wind from their sails. They did a fair job going into Tokyo for this particular Olympics. The medal haul would have been fairly more respectable. I think we should have done better. But overall, the administration issues, the kitting issues, this time we've not had any scandals thus far. Hopefully, we will not hear any. I think they've done a very they've made very deliberate moves of always sharing, information of when the teams are going to be kitted, when they're being presented to the head of state or being presented to the media. They've cultivated a good culture with the media and also just the general public as well. I would give them a 6 or 6.5 out of 10. I think they can be given another chance in office. Let's see them handle another games, maybe the Commonwealth next year, and hopefully the next Olympic Games in France.
Yeah, indeed. I think I'd also give them a 6 out of 10. There's still a lot more that needs to be done, but obviously coming from a place where there were no marks to give to previous NOC officers, that is a start. It is something. They can do better, and we do hope that for Paul Tergat and his team going into the next term, they are performing well. Talk about performing well, and there's this man, Carl the Flash Tundo. He is the 2021 Africa Rally Championship winner after winning the Mountain Gorilla Rally in Rwanda. It's great to see the Flash winning. He has dominated motorsport for close to 2 decades, continues to hold these high standards. What next for him? Should he Do you think that he is worthy of a Wax team drive next season? Because, in my opinion, he's conquered Africa, he's conquered Kenya. How about a Wax team, giving him a few races on the World Rally Championship?
And as you put it, I think that's what he's been prepping for. I think since the Safari Rally was confirmed going back into the WRC earlier this year. So once they came into because we had the Nanyuki Rally, which was one of the races in the ARC series. I think he won that. So he's been prepping himself, and he's worthy of getting into a Wax team, or at least manufacturers. And I think he deserves it. Winning 4 back-to-back races across Africa. The terrain here is crazy. I mean, I can imagine what was happening in Rwanda because of the hills and the curves, and also the rain and wet conditions. And as he's prepping for 2022, he should be in a Wax team. I think we've seen some action from the Ford teams, and I think Toyota. They might be coming into Recce early next year, I think in Feb. Who knows? Maybe you'll have a local driver joining any of them. Carl the Flash would be my my bet.
That would be great. And moving from the rallying circuit, let's go into the boxing ring. Sarah Ochieng is the new light welterweight boxing champion in the Commonwealth Boxing Federation. Remember, she already holds the UBO, Universal Boxing Organization's lightweight title. She demolished her opponent from Malawi. That was a good fight. What do you think?
I think she's making her presence felt, and that's a good outing given that it was held on the 20th of October, Mashujaa Day. It was a good fight. I think she had it together, and she's showing the potential that we have if we just put our resources into some of these sports. Boxing, we know, has sort of lost its radar across most of the public sphere, and also the tragedies that we've seen in the Congestinas of this world and among other boxers. But I think Sarah is putting on a good show, and as I said, if you invest in sport, then you're likely to be rewarded with the performances that you've seen.
Indeed, and we do hope that she is able to get a lot more exposure, a lot more fights, but more importantly, put up big results. Would like to see her, win more significant titles, more significant than the UBO. Actually compete with the best of the best on the global stage. Talking about the global stage, we do have more teams confirming participation for the Safari Sevens. Germany and Spain. Germany have made a return to the Safari Sevens for the first time since 2014. Spain are regular visitors to Nairobi. They're again here. What's your take on the event, especially in the wake of the decision by the government, number one, to lift the curfew, and then to allow fans back into the stadium?
I think this is a big one for the Sevens, and kudos to the sports officials who sort of went into the back rooms and tried to get the ministry to lift their bans, and also just the restrictions on the sporting venues. It will be a good precursor, I think, curtain raiser for what we expect as the 7 seasons for the Shujaa team. It's good to have the European teams, Germany, Spain. I don't remember the other team, I think, which had confirmed earlier, the emerging box from South Africa. Or is it a select team from South Africa? I think
It's a select team. It's called the South Africa All Stars Sevens Academy. But of course, it's still part of the whole South African elite performance program. Yes. So yeah, they are in Nairobi as well. Just shows you how much esteem this tournament is held with. I mean, in my opinion, it's just great to have sport back. It's great to have fans back in the stadium. Ticket prices were announced today. We just hope that we'll see fans in the stadium over the weekend as we look to go back to the good old days of hosting major sports events in the country.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a tough one for the rugby union to try and marshal the numbers, but never be surprised with Kenyans. Luckily, an end of month weekend, and as you said, a lot of Kenyans have been looking forward to the lifting of the curfew. So this is a good one for them to come and unwind and just have some fresh entertainment from the pitches.
Yeah, indeed, and we are certainly looking forward to that. Let's go to athletics because we've already talked about fans being allowed into the venues, but there's one thing before we go back into the story of Eliud Kipchoge and athletics. This is a conversation I was having with some friends yesterday, and we noticed that Football Kenya Federation is still scheduling matches at 1 p.m. on weekdays. One would think that in light of the decision by the government, they would actually tweak those fixtures. I mean, move it probably to 3 p.m. on a Friday, because I do understand the challenge with venues in Kenya is that we don't have floodlights. But I mean, move it to later in the day when there's still enough sunlight. But no, they've stuck to the 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. What's your take?
As I said, FKF is an office that is, waiting to leave, and I think they should have left as early as yesterday, because if you look at arrangements, as you're saying, a game like or games like those that have been scheduled for 1 o'clock, who are you expecting to come for such a game? Half of the population will be working. Most of them cannot even make time, even if you're trying to rush out of the office and come back. Just make proper arrangements. 3 o'clock, 3:30, have a 2-hour game by 5:30. People will be able to catch up with their transport back home, and you'll still be within the safe lighting, for such a game. It's just a disappointment because now you expect fans to be coming back to the games. Just a
But you're not
disappointment.
doing, yeah, you're not doing, you're actually working against it, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, one can't help but think, is it just a lack of foresight, or is it just being deliberate, you know?
I think it's
We
just going through the motions. You just want to play the games without any order. Just to run it and say that you play the leagues.
Now let's go to somebody who's on top of his game. I mean, he's out of the league of many other athletes. Eliud Kipchoge. He was voted the best male athlete of the year by the Association of National Olympic Committees for his performances in Tokyo. A well-deserved award.
Precisely. I watched his performance in Tokyo. I was one of the crazy ones who decided to wake up at in the arm towards the marathon. I remember it happened in is it Hokkaido, one of the cities. Not in fact, actually, it didn't happen in Tokyo because they had to move the marathon because of the weather conditions. And true to word, Eliud did not disappoint. He put on a good show. Clearly, he was not going for the record; he was going for the medal. Totally deserved because preparations, the run, and just having that charisma of bringing back the pride of Kenya and also the pride of athletics and clean athletics for that matter onto the game. Totally deserved.
Yeah, true indeed. I echo your sentiments. Remember, he became just the third athlete to defend the marathon title. That's a very exclusive class that he is in. And, kudos to him. He continues, like you say, to be a shining light for for athletes around the world. Talking about shining lights, we had a number of sports personalities who were feted during the Mashujaa Day celebrations, most notably Ruth Chepngetich, the marathon world record holder for women, Humphrey Kayange, Kenya Sevens legend, and Kenya's best ever striker, in my opinion, Dennis Oliech. Worthy of the recognition by the state.
Yeah, precisely. I think they deserve these honors. I think some have even come too late in the day because if you look at guys like Dennis, Humphrey, they have done more than their share of contribution for their sport and also to representing the country. And if you look at, for example, at Hayang, he was even one of the ambassadors who pushed for the sevens to get into the Olympic games, which just happened in Rio. So it's I mean it's 4 years on. We should have given these athletes or these sports people their honors. I think one omission, but maybe it was a bit too late to call it in the day. Agnes, maybe they should have done it posthumously. Agnes Tirop, a lot of athletes felt that they should have honored her for her, sort of achievements, in as much as she passed away before her prime.
Yeah, indeed. And also faith, 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 faith. We've seen her run in the 1500 meters. We saw her defeat Van Hassan in Zurich. Faith Kipyegon missing out once again. She always seems to miss out. But somebody also mentioned that for Mashujaa Day, it is a recognition. The commendations actually come on Jamhuri Day, and probably, yeah, we'll get to see the likes of Faith Kipngetich actually receive a head of state commendation, because she is one athlete who consistently raises this flag high for Kenyan athletes, taking over the mantle from Vivian Cheriot, who's now gone into the long distance, into marathon running. I think for me, Faith Kipyegon is to women's athletics in Kenya what Eliud Kipchoge is to men's athletics, and probably worthy of recognition and commendation. But we'll wait and see.
Precisely.
Yeah, indeed. Now, tell us more about the NBA and its 75th anniversary celebrations.
Yes, we had the kickoff last week. I think the first games were with the previous finalist. We had the LA Lakers in the West facing the Golden State Warriors. We also had the New Jersey Nets playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Very interesting kickoff of this season, which is the 75th. We have over 100 players from across different countries. Interestingly, we have quite a good representation of African players, 5 Nigerians, 2 Cameroonians, 2 players from the DRC, an Egyptian, Angolan, and Senegalese, as well as Sudanese. My challenge is why isn't Kenya in that sphere? And knowing that we have the talent, or we have people playing in the US college leagues, and hopefully getting into the professional leagues. What can the Kenya Basketball Federation say about that? Yeah, it's a good thing. I think we should be playing in the NBA with the best of the best.
Indeed, I think it's just a matter of time. I'm heartened by the performances of the likes of Tyler Ongwae, Preston Bungay, who's down in Australia, Ariel Okal. I mean, these are players who are literally just knocking at the door. And just as we took the time before we managed to see Kenyan players in football, actually break through into the European leagues, I think it's just a matter of time, because also we've begun to realize the importance of all these preparations, the exposure, getting these players onto programs that see them get to the pathways that will see them feature. We're already seeing it in women's basketball. We saw Felmas Koranga, daughter of former Harambee Stars midfielder, by the way, Elijah Koranga, and sister of Ariel Okal. She became the first Kenyan basketballer, male or female, to play in the NCAA, which is the most prestigious level of college basketball in America. So I think if we're able to get players featuring in the NCAA, I believe it's just a matter of time before they'll be able to break through into the NBA.
Definitely, and I think as we've been having the national teams playing in the Afri basketball tournaments, both men and women in Rwanda in August and September. We've had that exposure. I think NBA Africa also introduced that league, which unfortunately I don't think we had teams participating from Kenya, but I think going forward we'll see whether we'll be able to be part of that mix, because they're hoping this to be an annual event. And with such programs, I think it's only fair for the Kenya Basketball Federation to up its game and also raise the standards of the local league, so that we also have scouts coming in to look at young talent, look at talent from the teams, and who knows, a year or two, we should be having someone in the NBA.
Yeah, it should happen sooner rather than later. The Commonwealth Games is happening in Birmingham in 2022. And on the 1st of November, the Commonwealth torch arrives in the country as a part of a sensitization tour for the Commonwealth Games. We do have a busy 2022 ahead. Commonwealth Games is... I don't think that Kenya always puts its best foot forward at the Commonwealth Games, because number one, we tend to, I don't know if it's being democratic or what, because we tend to more often than not send a second string squad, more particularly in athletics. Maybe this is the time to take these things a lot more seriously.
Precisely, and I think I'm reminded of a 1990 Commonwealth Games which we had. I think it was either Brisbane or somewhere in Australia, Auckland, or I think in New Zealand or someone, one of the cities down south. And I remember announcing where we had Charles Gitonga running the 400 meters and winning gold, coming out of nowhere and suddenly just springing to the spotlight. It tells you the potential of some of these games in bringing out talent and also just mix and matching, because I think we had John Gogi as well, who won a gold after having such a great outing in Seoul in 1988. So it's a good outing. I think we can mix it up. We can have both fresh and raw talent coming through the ranks, but also just have a few highlights or a few established athletes to just make things interesting and also just attract star power to the games. But it's a good thing. We have this in November. 2022 is with us.
Yeah, and again, talking about the National Olympic Committee, and this is a different office. It would be interesting to see how they approach the Commonwealth Games, because I'm looking for them also in terms of consistency, in terms of how they prepare their teams, how they manage the logistics, and the more these games are taking place, and I know that the Commonwealth Games falls under Knox docket, the better they become both administratively, and I believe that excellence administratively can eventually pay off on the team's performance, and you can see the country probably now performing much better. Navalayo Osembo, she is the CEO and co-founder of Enda Sportswear.
Osembo, as you say, has been consistent. She's also tried to leverage her brand, and that was a good partnership she had with the EABL Tusker brand, trying to keep some of the Kenyan athletes after they came back home, and also just trying to just make the conversations more interesting, because why not have a local brand? Why not have someone wear something more authentic and more homegrown? We're not saying Nike and the Pumas of this world and major brands are bad. It's just that we want to own our own and also just promote and push the best that we can from this part of the world.
Yeah, great. And like you said, own our own. It reminds me of Zambia. I know they do kit, especially the national football teams. They are kitted in a locally manufactured playing apparel. There's some teams in Tanzania as well who are doing that. I happened to be in Tanzania in August this year, and just in my curiosity, found out about the replica shirts for both Yanga and Simba. They're manufactured locally, and there is a plan, I think, for one of the TPL sides to actually embrace locally manufactured kit. Is it by 2025? Because they are looking at it in terms of course, number one, not many teams have kitting contracts, so purchasing it reduces a lot of costs. And then number two, being able to sell the replicas at affordable prices to the masses, and getting revenues from there, but also increasing your team's visibility. So I mean, for Navalayo Osembo, in my opinion, I mean, trailblazer, and do wish her all the best in the final shortlisting.
Definitely, and as you put it very precisely, I think the Tanzanians, are getting ahead of the game, in promoting their own. I think we have seen the success that is a Tanzanian football league, and why not have someone else locally and say Gor Mahia or even AFC can be kitted with the Enda Sportswear? Why not?
Indeed. And as we come to the tail end of the show, the countdown, things to look forward to. For me, of course, there is the Safari Sevens happening on the 30th and 31st of October at the Nyayo National Stadium. The day after, we do have the Stanchart Marathon. Whoever thought that we'd see the day when we've got events happening around the same time, and there's no conflict in terms of personnel, in terms of sponsorship? Do you think that we are on track to positioning ourselves as a sporting destination, both in terms of venues and logistically?
I think it's only that we don't believe in our capabilities. I think we have what it takes to support any major sport, and as I've said before, it's just for the corporates and also sports federations to come together, look at the potential, exploit those potentials, and also just work together as a team, and also and involve the government, because in all this we still have all the major stakeholders participating, because like in this weekend, it's going to be quite a hassle, looking at the logistics, travel wise or traffic wise, and also just handling the comeback of fans into the stadiums or different sporting venues. But it's a plus for us in the sports world. We are back into exciting times, getting engaged. We always look forward to the weekends now. I can't wait for the long weekend.
Great. Transitions. Maybe you can tell us about the sad news of athletes who have left us over the past few days.
We start with the All Blacks back. Sean Wainui, he died at age 25 last week. He had a road accident. I think he was driving back home or something of the sort. And it's tragic because he was one of the outstanding players in the All Blacks, and we have seen the New Zealand team really echo a lot of sadness and shock in losing such a young talent. Because we know the All Blacks, for you to get into that team at that level, and also at such an age, he was getting into his prime, and I think it was only his life being cut short by this accident, and yeah, it's an unfortunate incident.
Indeed, and then we saw Agnes Tirop laid to rest. There was an announcement by the Athletics Kenya president, Jack Tuwei, saying that Kenya is going to host a leg of the restructured World Cross Country Challenge in 2022, and that they're going to name it after Agnes Tirop, a befitting tribute to the star whose potential we'll never know what could have been.
It's a good thing to honor her loss, or honor her, her time with us. But I think it's also important that the Athletics Kenya team acknowledges that this is something that has existed. It's just that we have lost such a prominent or a young talent that was making inroads into major sports events. They should address that situation. I think they'll have some workshops coming up in December, because we have seen, and I think one of the ladies who read one of the eulogies or one of the conversations, the speeches during the burial, she made it very clear that some of these incidences have been reported. It's just that no one really cared to tackle it and address it before it turns tragic.
Indeed, and for Agnes Tirop and Sean Wanui, may their souls rest in eternal peace. The crystal ball is back, and Richie, tell us what's in your crystal ball.
We have Asiya Mohammed. This is a Olympic Paralympic. Today we are tongue-tied, I don't know why. She's a Paralympian. She was part of the rowing team that went to the Tokyo Games. She was honored during the Mashujaa Day. Very young lady who's decided to go against the grain and go into a sport that is not traditionally Kenyan, and decided that she wants to conquer the waters and single row. She's the first female rower or rowing expert from this part of the world, and I think she's currently in France trying to compete in the Mont Famal Wheelchair Tennis Open. She's quite multifaceted, as you can see, and I think that is a young talent that we need to nurture just going into the future, because then we have all this potential that we can utilize. I think some years back we were trying to get into rowing, and we had the Africa Rowing Championships in Sagana. I don't know what happened after that, because I thought this was a sport that we can really try and exploit because of the rivers and the outdoor spaces that we have that we can utilize. But Asiya Mohammed, new sporting talent. Let's see what happens in the future.
Indeed, and I mean that's it for this week on Timeout. It has been a difficult week, of course, trying to deal with the new pressures that have come from Safari Sevens, but still we pulled off the show. And to our audience, all we can say is thanks for joining us. we'll be better after this timeout, and we're looking forward to that. I've been your host, Michael Kwambo, and that has been
Richard Onjohi.
Catch you again on timeout. See you next time.
Kwaherini.